Sure. Just real quick before I go into the presentation, I wanted to introduce the other two USDA members that I have on the line with us tonight. Liz Camps, who is the district conservationist that covers New York City, along with Riverhead as well, Long Island, and Miriam, I'm going to mess this up, Miriam, Villamilla. She is our Farm Service Agency representative in New York City as well. That we work close and hand in hand. We're sister agencies, and in the near future, we will have a brick and mortar office in New York City that will service all community gardens and urban farms within the city. So appreciate it, Miriam and Liz, for hopping on tonight and being a part of the conversation. Let me get this going here. All right. Cheryl, can you see my screen?
I can see the screen.
Okay. All right. So the People's Garden Initiative was started in the previous administration, well, two administrations ago, under the Obama administration with the current Secretary, Tom Vilsack. Once Mr. Vilsack came back on with the department, he decided to bring back the People's Garden Initiative. And the initiative is tied to the urban centers around the country. And there's 17 urban centers around the country, New York City being one of those urban centers. And like I said, we will have a new office in New York City to service all agricultural needs, probably in the springtime of this 2024, with staffing that office as well. So, how does this money flow to New York City? So NRCS, the Natural Resource Conservation Service, along with Just Food, went into partnership as a facilitator of funds to allow for gardens around the city to apply for opportunities, funding opportunities to either start gardens or revamp their gardens in any way possible. And so that's what these funds could be utilized for. In 2022, NRCS had two People's Gardens in New York City. They're currently People's Gardens. That is Garden of Happiness and Taqua Community Farm in the Bronx. Our People's Gardens, they receive funds from us to revamp their gardens, recondition their gardens, along with some funds for things like farmers markets and all that good stuff. We also have another People's Garden with the Urban Soils Institute, and that's located on Governor's Island. That's a little bit more unique than the other gardens that we are working with. But we had an opportunity to work closely with the Urban Soils Institute, and to also try to capture, from a USDA standpoint, capture some of those visitors to Governor's Island. You know, the over 1 million or so visitors each year to Governor's Island. We thought it would be a good opportunity for USDA to be there, along with partnering with the Urban Soils Institute for a People's Garden. And what are the requirements of a People's Garden? So the People's Garden Initiative provides an opportunity for gardens that produce food. That is the number one goal. So if you're a garden that produces food, this is an initiative for you. And one second here, blocking me here. There we go. And each garden affiliated with the People's Garden Initiative must incorporate all of the following components of the requirements of this initiative. One of the requirements is to provide a benefit and be accessible to the community, which most all gardens are within the city. Be collaborative within the community or with USDA. So, for instance, you could hold a USDA day in your garden where other gardeners could come and learn about USDA programs, etc. Educate the community about food production, preparation, or environmental stewardship, and incorporate sustainable practices. So you may ask, what can you do, if you are approved for funding through the People's Garden Initiative? What kind of things can you do within your garden? So, like I said earlier, there are opportunities for us to uh, fund uh, for farmstead supplies, farm stand supplies. We have cost shared for high tunnels in the People's Garden Initiative. We have utilized funds for chicken coops, irrigation. Uh, those of you that have on-site water, there are opportunities for pressurized irrigation through the People's Garden Initiative for drip irrigation. And we also have funded raised beds, the lumber to make those raised beds, along with any kind of weed barriers as well. We have funded those kind of practices. That's not encompasses of all practices, but those are just some general practice or the most used practices in these People's Garden initiatives around the country. We're excited to partner with Just Food, along with getting our office stood up out there in Brooklyn, and having the opportunity to not only help but be a part of the solution in New York City for those gardens that need help. We haven't always been there. We recognize that, but we have an opportunity to start, and this is our start. We started last year with the People's Garden Initiative, and we continue to build upon that. And with that, once again, my name is Blake Glover. I'm the state conservationist for the Natural Resource Conservation Service. We have offices all over the state in 43 counties across the state, and New York City just being one of those here in the near future. So excited about this. I'll turn it back over to the general discussion, but please ask all the questions that we may be able to answer tonight. And if you ask one of those curveballs that we don't have answers to, we'll make sure we get those questions answered in a timely fashion. So with that, I will turn it back over to the general discussion.
So this is an opportunity for folks to ask questions. If you're mulling over, is this the right opportunity for me? And given the examples that Blake listed, maybe yours is not in it, and you have ideas of how you can utilize these funds, these are the questions that you should ask. Because urban agriculture and community gardening in New York is its own animal, and we are a little unique sometimes compared to other cities throughout the US. So whatever scaling up you're thinking of doing, even if it's out there, this is the place to ask those questions.
And Cheryl, I think before while they're thinking, one of the questions that they may ask or we may need to clarify on is those that are permitted by Green Thumb to operate. If they apply, there's a process in which Green Thumb would have to, approve or sign off on their proposal, correct?
Correct.
So I guess in general terms, those that are Green Thumb gardens, you would need approval from Green Thumb to move forward in this process. So just to be clear, we have worked with Green Thumb. We have had them a part of our conversations on trying to make sure that we capture their needs in this approval process, and so
Mhm.
they're well aware of this opportunity that could benefit all green thumb gardens as well as non-green thumb gardens.
So Blake, here's
Hi,
a
my name is Hi, my name is Chuck Vassar, and I'm a gardener at Bissell Gardens. I guess we're the forgotten part of the Bronx, northeast, just below the line to the next county. But we've been there for 25 years, and we've got 2.5 acres, and we do a whole bunch of things. We are very interested because one of our gardens, it's a linear garden, so our 2.5 acres is broken up uh, along 5 city blocks. What used to be Bissell Avenue, which is a DMAP street, DMAP for our benefit, so we could garden. We have an area that's about half an acre that is what we call our food for others area. all of the all of the food we grow there, we donate. All of the food we grow there, we donate to part of the solution at the end of the season. But we've been growing in that same plot of land under weed cloth for 10 years. We're at the point where we feel the soil is pretty much exhausted. We need to change our methods, and we're hoping that we can snag a grant to maybe do that in the coming year. I believe my co-gardener, Heather, is also on this call, and maybe she wants to speak to that also. Thank you.
Thank you,
Oh,
Mr. Vassar, for being on today.
Heather, before I move on, do you want to say something?
I had a question a little different. Um, but I guess jumping off of what Chuck has shared, I think just mentioning where the assistance is with developing new programs or expanding into programs. And you mentioned the farm stand, you also mentioned as we, whatever, if it was CSAs that we wanted to expand into and growing more food for the communities. I guess my question is, in what I understand supplies, does it also allow for stipends? I know someone mentioned in the chat about teaching salaries. So along those lines, teaching salaries as we present even more healthy food ideas to the community, and as well as being able to pay stipends. So if we introduce a chicken coop, Chuck mentioned we've got a very wide area. It almost, for us to be able to do that, we really do need to have someone dedicated, as a point person to really care for it as other gardeners learn also how to do so. So yeah.
Appreciate that question there. So this initiative does not pay for stipends for those kind of things. Now we do have programs in which may be coming up, and we'll make sure that we get this full list of participants from Cheryl. And as those programs become available beyond the one we're talking about today, there may be some opportunities for those kind of ask to be compensated through some kind of other program that we may have.
I see first Jackie Rogers and then Angel Torres. I want to ask
Hi,
questions.
hi, thank you. My name is Jackie Rogers, and I'm the president of the Garden by the Bay in Edgemere, New York. We are a green thumb garden, and I would like to know a little bit more about the procedure of having green thumb approve of the participation in this funding. That's one. And two, what is the funding amount for this particular grant or funding initiative? Thank you.
So we have we have, so there's $150,000, give or take, that are eligible for gardens in New York City. And Cheryl, correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't been a part of the planning meetings.
Gardens can apply for up to $10,000. The max is $10,000.
Got it.
And she did ask a very important question about green thumb, and I think we will have to circle back to you, Jackie. But
Okay.
one of the things that we have raised with green thumb is we know that green thumb supplies green thumb gardens with certain materials and supplies. So in utilizing this funding, we would recommend that if you are able to receive these supplies, to use the additional funding to scale up on a different level. If you receive lumber, don't include lumber as part of the resources that you wanna receive. Include something else that green thumb wouldn't supply.
Okay.
Supply.
All right. What about transitioning from a lumber bed to a metal beds? Because we're located, we're right in front of the Jamaica Bay. And during Winter Storm Elliott this past December, last year, December 23rd, the bay crushed over the garden. So we had to do a lot of soil amendment, and the soil has been basically compromised. So we would like to transition to a more sustainable platform using a different bed material to make sure that we don't encounter another storm. And due to climate change, we just don't know how the weather's going to be. So to prevent what took place this past winter, we'd like to change over our beds.
Okay, very good question, and something that we would have to talk to Green Thumb about, because if those are not materials, transitional materials that Green Thumb can provide, those are definitely eligible for the grant, because it's scaling up your infrastructure for your garden. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Angel, your time.
Hi, I'm with Nos Cuidamos in Bushwick. We are starting with Green Thumb, so I would also love the requirements for like how that works with Green Thumb to get the funding, whatever that looks like. So my question is, what does the partnership look like? Like, is it something that's ongoing? Is it a one-time thing? What does the USDA collaboration look like, as well as when do the applications start and close?
So the first part of that, the hope is that this continues, the partnership continues, but that all depends on the funding that we receive for these initiatives around the country. It's all depending on budget. I'm sure you guys have seen some of the congressional budget talks, maybe not, but some of those things are depending on budget and those sort of things. So I can't say for not how far this will go, and we'll move on from there. But for now, we've done it for 2 years, and the hope is that we continue this in 2024 as well. And Cheryl, I think there was a question about the deadline. Oh, you're still muted.
My apologies. The deadline is December 1. I'm going to put it in the chat. And I can assure you that it's a very simple application process. It will not take you hours to complete. We want the barrier to be as low as possible so that we don't have to do a lot of reading.
And does it open?
Once we approve it after this, we want to get all your questions to make sure that everything ties in with the application, and then we'll be releasing it ASAP.
Well, that kind of answers the question that I was about to ask. When will it be available? We spoke about December 1st being the deadline. I just want to know when will it be available to us?
ASAP. As soon as we are finished with this forum and USDA signs off on the application, you should have it by no later than early next week, Monday.
Thank you.
Oh, and I see Ebony's hand up. Am I correct?
Yes, thank you. Hi, I'm Ebony. I'm with Carver Community Garden in East Harlem. We are not a green thumb garden. We are a Manhattan Land Trust garden. So I was wondering how would we go about applying for the grant?
Blake, you want me to answer that?
Yes, please.
The application process is the same for everyone. They all get the same application. The only caveat is we need to make sure with Green Thumb that the Green Thumb gardens that apply satisfy certain criteria that they have. And as I mentioned before, the only main criteria so far that has come up for Green Thumb is duplication of materials or duplication of effort. If Green Thumb supplies gardens with certain types of material, which we know like in the spring or the summer and the fall, if you are going to be scaling up the infrastructure of your garden, we are recommending that you look for or scale up in ways that Green Thumb Green Thumb materials and supplies would not provide you with. Does that make sense?
And I will say that if there's any, Ms. Boone had brought up the question about, being a part of a land trust. If there's any situation like that to where you need approval to upgrade your farms or gardens, I would say that you still need to follow that same process, regardless if it's USDA or other monies that may come to your garden. If there's an approval process for you to receive funds, please continue to follow that same approval process.
And for you said Bronx Land Trust, Bronx Manhattan Land Trust, is that what you said, Ebony? Or Brooklyn Queens Land Trust? I'm sorry. Which one your garden belongs to?
Oh,
Sorry.
excuse me. You're muted.
You're muted. You're muted. I can't hear you.
Maybe put in the chat.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Manhattan Land Trust. Manhattan
Okay.
Land Trust.
Because we did reach out to the Bronx Land Trust and the Brooklyn Queens Land Trust. They received all the information, and so far we haven't gotten any feedback that there is any special requirements of gardens under their umbrella to apply for this funding. Excuse me. Sand Curtain.
Yes, thank you. I was wondering whether the Green Thumb coordinators for our gardens, are those coordinators in any way enabled to help us through the application? You said that they're aware of the grant. Will they be talking to their gardens about this? And for example, if people are not on this forum, will the coordinators reach out to their gardens and let them know about this and maybe help them through it?
Blake, we have been in talks with Green Thumb leadership, right? Carlos, Alex, and so forth. Those are the folks that we have been talking to. So it's to circle back with leadership to ensure that community outreach folks are intermediaries for this. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Thank you.
Okay. Because I was thinking they would be in a good way to tell us, well, okay, don't apply for this because we got you with that. You understand what I'm saying? That they if they were to look over our application, they can say, you don't need to put that on that grant because we'll have that for you.
Understood, yes, makes sense. But we will circle back on clarifying some of these questions.
Thank
Corey.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, Corey.
I often hear from groups, I can think of two off the top of my head that are interested in solar. I'm just curious how that fits into this this opportunity.
Yes, so good question. Solar does fit into this. In the previous gardens, we've done some solar pumps with solar panels with pumps in the water harvest catchment tubs. That way they could pump out and pump to those raised beds. So yes, solar is an option for those gardens that currently do not have water or may need light within the garden as well.
Thanks, Blake. Thanks, Cheryl.
I'm briefly looking through the chat to see if there are any questions that we missed. There's one here from Sandra from BQLT. Can a land trust apply for the benefit of all the gardens in the network?
Yes.
We're having trouble. This is Kim from Davidson Avenue. We are part of the Bronx Land Trust. We are having trouble where money is being distributed to the 18 gardens, and we're getting feedback that some gardens do not feel that it is being equally distributed. There's no explanation of how some gardens are getting more than others or less than others. There's no pattern or blueprint of how it's done. So a lot of gardens are taking initiative and applying for grants and any money that they can get on their own.
And what's the question?
Adding to that question, that the center of Bronx Land Trust, it is raising money, but when it's distributed to the gardens, it's not an equal thing. So if you notice, you'll see that some of Bronx Land Trust gardens are asking to get into these programs on their own.
Understand. So with USDA, we do not discourage anybody from applying to the program. And so whether it's individual or a corporation or entity, all can apply.
A few more questions.
That answers the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. A few other questions. Does the application require that the garden be tax exempt? Blake?
No.
And can grant supplies include rat proofing supplies? From Janet Vukic. I am with the Ridgewood Community Garden.
Yes, that would fall underneath pest management. I think we'll probably get a lot of requests for something like that, and it would be good for USDA to learn what that means for us in the city. And so we're not excited about rats, but we're excited about being a part of the solution.
Angel, you had another question?
Yes, hi. Okay, so we have a small aquaponics system. So aquaponic farming, is that something that is included in funding from this grant?
So no, it has to be tied to the land. All right,
Okay.
so those that are either grown in the ground or raised beds, it has to be tied to the land.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Sand Curtin, and then Charles again. Charles Vassar. Sand.
Yes, I'd like to know whether the infrastructure upgrade might include on-site plumbing, because our garden is in 2 plots, and in order to irrigate the gardens, we are hooking up our hoses to the fire hydrant, and for one garden of the 2, those hoses have to cross the street, which means that they're subject to buses, trucks, and pretty much anything that comes down that street. It's a 2-way street. So you can imagine our water hoses take quite a beating. I don't think there's any of them that aren't ruptured in some way at this point. And I was told that there's been something in the works for years now to try and get on-site plumbing. I'm not sure. That doesn't sound like it's through Green Thumb, so I'm wondering if maybe we can use the grant to acquire that sooner, since it seems to be taking so long through whatever the city's grinding bureaucracy is.
Thank you for that question. So this is going off topic of the People's Garden. The People's Garden will not pay for on-site water, or so if you had on-site water and you were trying to get water to the back of the property without dragging hoses, then the People's Garden funding could pay for plumbing, to hook onto that on-site water on the property and get to the back and provide another spigot or something like that. But to talk about on-site water just for a second, and this doesn't include all that's on the call. The on-site water project is with the agency, my agency, with the Natural Resource Conservation Services, with Green Thumb. It is with Green Thumb. We have an agreement with Green Thumb to provide on-site water to those food producing farms within the city. We are currently working through a process for a watershed plan, which is requirement of this funding. And I believe we've identified, and this is only for Green Thumb Gardens.
Right.
USDA could only work with Green Thumb Gardens on this alone. But there may be other opportunities down the road for those non-Green Thumb gardens, but for this opportunity, it's only for Green Thumb Gardens. So down the road, we're expecting to have some approvals on a watershed plan, and then in 24, late 24, rolling into probably year 2025, we will have an opportunity to start the process of actual construction of those gardens, Green Thumb Gardens, that currently do not have on-site water. And I believe we had identified roughly 230, 235 of those Green Thumb Gardens that produced food but did not have on-site water. And so that is where we're starting. Yes, to answer your question, that what you're talking about is Green Thumb, and what you're talking about is coming out of my shop as well.
But not on this grant.
No, not on this grant. 150,000 wouldn't touch the on-site water project.
Gotcha. Thank you.
we have Marilyn Fernandez and then Kayla.
Yeah, hi. Just to touch on what Sand Curtin said, I'm from the garden across the street, Discovery Community Garden 2. And yes, Green Thumb and Parks. Last year we had a markup for where the water is going to be on site inside the garden. But yes, we know we don't know. We know and don't know in a sense that when it will actually happen. So we got to wait for that to take place, the construction and the actual happening of the water connection inside the gardens for both the gardens. On another note, is there a specific space measurement for the food growing that we will need to donate? And all food that we grow with this grant is to be donated?
No. No.
Okay.
We're not dictating what you do with the food. We're just
Okay.
saying that a garden that applies for this program has to produce food, whether you're growing that food for consumption or whether you are, donating it. That is up to you in your garden. We're not dictating what you do with the food.
Oh, all right. But is there any specific measurement that, okay, you have to have so many beds or so much a certain measurement space for growing the food that should be kept aside for this specific grant in mind?
No. So what you would be your proposal, what you would ask for in the proposal would be what you need. We're not going to tell you what you need. It would be, what your plan is for your garden and the needs within your garden for the proposal. Now, if you get approval, that would be an opportunity for us to come out or one of our partners to come out and kind of talk about layout and talk about how many raised beds you could have within your garden, those sort of things. But no, we wouldn't upfront tell you how to do it. We're hoping that there's some upfront design and discussions on how you want to do that yourself.
Oh, okay. All right. Because our garden has the initial previous raised bed placements we have not rearranged anything, so there is a kind of ample spaces between each bed and things like that. So if we think of if we're going to think of wanting to do this program, that means we're going to rearrange everything so that we have beds to grow this food. So we have to take the charge. We have to take the responsibility of redesigning our beds and all that. Would we get something to do soil amendment then in those cases?
We could pay for it, but we would not supply the supplies.
Oh, all right. So that would be included as part of the grant.
Yes.
All right.
And I will say that that's a couple other projects that we have going on down there that are with other gardens that are scheduled to get on-site water. A lot of our projects are on hold because they're just going to tear up some of the garden, or maybe in some cases a lot of the garden. And so we haven't installed some of those things, just waiting on on-site water because they're going to tear it up anyway. So that may be something that you hold off on until you actually get on-site water.
Right. Also that that sand was mentioned was that the across the street, the garden which she is in has to have the hose across the street, which
Yeah.
gets the run over. And this part of the garden is where the hydrant is on our side of the sidewalk. So we don't, I mean, we don't have to, this part of the garden doesn't have to bear the loss of hoses more often than Discovery one. And also there is more space in Discovery 2. But again, yeah, we would have to decide what we want to do with our redesigning and go forward with the project. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Kayla.
Thank you. Hi, I have 3 questions. The first one is the 230 gardens that you had mentioned that have been kind of selected for it, for the on-site water. Have they been notified?
No, we're still in the planning stages of that, and we have not let that out yet. It's just a number that we've identified, and that's not been let out yet. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and then just a follow-up to that, one question is, if a garden is chosen, but then I guess could they decline?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, they could. Yes.
Okay, great. Next question. Can I understand that the December 1st is when the applications are due? Is there a grant timeline for when the winners will be announced, and then the timeline for when the grant needs to be spent and everything needs to be the final report?
Sure, I'll need help on that one.
I don't have the timeline. That would be
Okay.
Alana, and she's not on that call, not on the call today.
Oh, okay, but maybe it's probably 2024.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. And then my last question is, what is like some of the criteria for a compelling proposal? Okay, it's fine. If there's a lot of questions, sorry. Okay, well, that's all I got. Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right. And we'll make sure we share the PowerPoint. It does have a couple requirements of the gardens if you got on a little bit late. That way everybody's on the same page as far as what the general requirements of the actual, if you receive a grant, what it's for.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if there are a couple of hands up of people who have spoken before, so I don't know if they want to speak again, but there are a couple other questions. Maybe we could go through those first before we go back to the folks who raised their hand. Okay, when will it be notified? Oh, can funds be used to compensate any service providers? Example, a carpenter or landscaper?
I'll have to get back to you on that question. I don't know.
Does or will the grant cover permeable walkways to make the gardens more accessible?
Yes.
I think we answered this before. Would community education programs about school gardens about our schools gardens be eligible for funding?
So it would have to tie around, I think what they're saying, oh, I don't know if Virginia can come off mute, but
yeah, maybe Virginia can explain this a little bit more.
Yeah.
Virginia, are you available?
Yeah, sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good.
Oh, great. Sorry. We are a school that has gardens, and we do a lot of education programs for the students in the gardens around growing food and food equity. And we also try to do programs for the community, inviting them into the garden and sharing kind of what we've learned and about food growing and composting. Besides the supplies for the garden, doing the outreach to the community and like kind of funding would these kinds of programs, if we had a community outreach or community volunteer day, is that kind of available
Absolutely.
for funding? Yes.
Well, okay, so maybe I said absolutely too quick. I thought you meant like you were going to ask for maybe some supplies to either upgrade or add to the gardens, and then on top of that, you have a structure in place currently that provides some of those outreach things to students and also the community. The 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 funds would not pay for any kind of program. Now, just like earlier, we do have other programs that I think what you're asking for would fit into.
Okay. And then do we have to be a Green Thumb program, a garden to apply?
No,
Okay. So basically you'll cover supplies, garden supplies and garden upkeep and maintenance and expansion.
yes.
Okay.
But Blake, to clarify, does the garden have to be community facing? Like have open hours for all community members? Is there any specific criteria around that? I just want to be clear, because it's not just
Sure.
because Greentown Gardens have that specification, land trust gardens and so forth. So does it have to interface with the community and be accessible to the community all throughout the season?
It does. It does. And now it does not have to do that all the time.
I'm right.
In cases where there are programs and you guys that like Virginia was just talking about, that is more than welcome in this program. Yeah.
I think that is one thing that the application doesn't clarify, and we need to make that clear. Because if you say it's community facing, then people will think that because they are not like a Green Thumb garden, they can't apply.
Understand. Yep.
Yeah.
That's a good catch.
Paul is asking a follow-up question to the aquaponics question, which is just a follow-up to the aquaponics question. What if the aquaponics is in a pond that's connected to the rest of the farm? It's almost just a water bed. Would that be funded? It's also part of how we are planning on setting up irrigation using the pond to irrigate. It's actually a very good question.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think in this case, I was thinking of aquaponics being not tied to the land. Yeah, standalone. In this case, the question earlier, if it's not a standalone and it's kind of like this question, it would not be eligible. But I would not discourage anybody from applying, and then at the time of award, if the partnership has questions about what you have submitted before we award, we will come back to you with any clarification questions that we may need to answer that may not be tied within your application. But yes, on the surface, that does look like that would qualify, but you would have to clarify that a little bit in your application.
If we already have water inside, can we still apply for the grant for some type of light and pavement so it can be accessible for seniors and disabled folks?
Absolutely.
This one is good too. Is there an eligible categories list that can be shared? The presentation shared farm stand supplies, chicken coops, and irrigation. In our discussion, pesticides was mentioned. Are there other covered areas that would be considered outside this above list?
So we do not supply chemicals or pesticides. These funds will not purchase those things. And we can get a general list together and provide back to this group that called in tonight. Some other things that would qualify: picnic tables, for farmstead purposes. There's the credit card reader, the square that hooks to the phone. Those sort of things we have paid for in the past through the People's Garden Initiative, and we can provide another comprehensive list of some of the things that may jog somebody's memory a little bit and be able to apply. But yes, those sort of things.
Mhm. But by no means is the list exhaustive, because community gardens and farms can tell us how they can upgrade their site, and we could add what they're suggesting to our list. So I don't think folks who want to scale up should just rely on a list that we supply. I mean, we want to hear
That's
from
true.
what some of the innovations you want to bring to your site could be for scaling up. And would fruit tree maintenance be covered?
So that, once again, I think that's along the lines of, there was another question about outside landscapers or those sort of things coming in to do that kind of maintenance work. I'm gonna have to look into that. I'm not sure we pay for labor, but I will look into that.
And Corey asked, so to clarify, school gardens, farms will be eligible to apply? Yes. I guess, Heather, your question was answered about rat proofing. Do you need more clarification on that?
No. When he mentioned the pesticides, it was because you said that would fall under, so that's why I threw that word in, but it was the rat proof that would be allowed.
I'm sorry.
Be covered. Yeah.
I used the NRCS term or government term of pest management.
Pest management. Thank you.
Yeah, but not pesticides.
So I have Charles and then Marilyn, their hands are still up. I'm not sure if it's just still up or you have additional questions.
Yes, and I think my questions were answered, but so you're collecting information tonight to firm up your submission process. That's going to happen in the next week or two, and the deadline is going to be December 1st.
Next week, not in this a week or two. You'll have the application by the beginning of next week, and trust me, it is not gonna take you that long to complete the application. We made certain of that.
Okay, and you said that I guess the awardees would be notified in early 2024. Do you have a ballpark date for that?
We will have an exact date for you when we speak to the folks at NRCS who are administering that. And that will be on the final application for sure.
Okay, thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you, Charles. Chuck. Any other questions from folks? Did I miss anything in the chat that folks wanna, the folks that I missed wanna say out loud?
Hi, can I ask a quick question? This is Jackie Rogers again. What about hydroponics? Will that fall under the USDA? It's not aquaponics, but hydroponics.
So would it be grown in the soil?
No, so it's only soil-based that you support. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Are the awards on a reimbursement schedule? Blake.
On a reimbursement schedule. I made it. Hey, it's getting late. I made a little bit more on that. What's the?
I guess.
Hi,
that's me.
Question?
That's me.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, is it something that is like a check that we receive and can use right away, or is this like money that you need to that will get reimbursed? Yeah.
No, we got it. Okay.
Yeah. So how this will work is you will submit a request to Just Food for the purchase of said supplies, and then Just Food will reimburse, well, through NRCS will reimburse for those supplies.
Yeah. And we also discussed, what's the term? I'm blanking. Sorry, Blake.
Advanced payments.
Advanced pay. Thank you.
Gotcha. Perfect.
I think that's what you were thinking. Yes, and so we have opportunities. So when a garden submits a request for, we'll just use chicken coop, and it costs $5,000, we have an opportunity to, through NRCS, let that money flow to the garden in advance of the purchase of said chicken coop.
Is there a percentage of the award that is allowed an advance?
No.
No. Okay.
This is really, really important, just I think for gardens to understand whether or not we would be having to front the money and then be reimbursed. So I think that's really important for everyone to understand that really clearly, if that is an aspect of this model.
Understand. So
Yeah.
there's two options. There's some gardens out there that may have funds, and they may go ahead and purchase, and we can reimburse. And then the other option is the gardens that don't have can submit a proposal for advance payment for said practice. And so the hope is, I think the last question was, could we let out all the money up front? The hope is that we are not setting you up for failure by letting this money out and then having to pull it back or request it back, because that's just heartburn for everybody. And so the hope is that as you're ready to install the next practice or the next whatever that is, irrigation, that we make that advance payment, and then the chicken coop, we make that advance payment. So, but those that are a little more ambitious and can get it done, we have no problem doing that as well. Thanks for that question, Kayla.
Blake, when the advance payments are made, do they have a set time to get the practice done? Is it like 90 days, or how will that work?
Thanks, Liz. Yes. So the advance payments. So when a garden is asking for that advance payment, they have up to 90 days to install the practice, meaning it's in place, it's functional, whatever that is. If you're buying supplies, obviously that's not an installation, right? But they're on hand, they're being utilized within that 90 days. We're not making a payment in October, and then that money has not been spent on anything for 6 months. We're not doing that. And so the stipulation is within 90 days. The expectation is that if the money is advanced, they have 90 days to do what they said they were going to do, whether that's buying supplies, whether that's installing a hoop house, a low tunnel, whether that's installing irrigation, whether that's in buying a picnic table or community events, those sort of things. They have 90 days to do so. And Kayla, I think your hand is still raised. I'm not sure if you have a
Yes, I just
follow-up question.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify, I'm sorry if I missed it, if you have to be a 501c3, or can you just be a garden with a bank account?
You can just be a garden.
Frank, yeah.
Thank you.
And just want to make a comment when it comes to advance payments. I always recommend my clients to shop around. When you're going to request this advance payment, make sure that you check any other stores, Home Depot, Lowe's, whichever you buy your supplies, and you know exactly where you're going to get them. And that will make it easier, the process. And you know exactly, like, okay, I'm going to go here, I'm going to spend the money, and I know they have it. So that is something I always recommend everyone, even if it's a high tunnel, which is a bigger purchase. Any type of purchase is always good to have an estimate from whatever company or from you that you just check online.
Yeah. I am not seeing any more raised hands. I'm not sure if I missed any questions. Heather, go ahead.
More. So my question is, if we have another organization that is running a food growing and distribution program in, like, say, one of our gardens or area of the garden, kind of a little bit separate than all of the growing practices we do, can we both apply separately? Because they kind of run their own program in a particular area, we're doing others. You know, does one limit the other?
No, they can't apply. Yeah, they can't apply. Yeah.
Okay.
No, it
Thanks.
does not limit the other, and yes, you can apply. Yeah.
And one thing that also I want to say, I did put in the chat in Spanish, if anyone needs help with translating, if you need help in the future with Spanish, please reach out. I'm going to put my email in the chat. You can send me an email or call me, and that, I can help you with that.
Do you anticipate this grant ever being available in the future?
Yes, that's the hope, is that I think, as I said earlier, these grants are depicted on whatever the budget is from a federal government standpoint, and whatever the administration above us would like to do with these kind of funds. And so the hope is that these continue in years to come.
Do we have time to do a small recap in Spanish?
Sure, Liz, absolutely.
Okay. Someone just wrote if I could say it in Spanish. Would you mind putting the presentation up so I track myself and I don't...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And maybe before you get started, Liz, maybe those that maybe one last call for those that want to hop off may do so, and then we can get started with the Spanish version.
Thank you to everyone that participated tonight.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Liz. Hold on. I started at the end.
All right. So, para las personas que hablan español, queremos rápidamente pasar por todos los slides que Blake Glover presentó. Y el programa se llama el Jardín de la Gente. Y USDA quiere proveer fondos para que ustedes puedan implementar prácticas en sus jardines. So, nosotros ahora mismo tenemos 17 oficinas urbanas en todos los estados que ustedes ven en la parte derecha de su screen. Y New York City, la oficina va a abrir pronto, esperamos en la primavera. Next. Aquí no me acuerdo exactamente qué fue lo que él mencionó en esta, pero ahora mismo nosotros ustedes saben que ustedes tienen diferentes jardines alrededor de New York City, Manhattan, the Bronx, y los fondos que nosotros estamos proveyendo a través de los People's Garden es para ayudar a todos los jardines. Si son debajo de Green Thumb o si son debajo de compañías privadas o son debajo de la comunidad nada más, ustedes pueden aplicar para este programa. Next. Next, yeah. Ahora mismo hay un jardín bien grande como podemos decir una finca en la isla Governors Island, y ahí, si ustedes no saben, el Instituto de Suelos Urbanos también está en ese lugar, y ellos nos están ayudando a nosotros a través de este proceso para implementar prácticas de salud de suelo. Son los requerimientos para poder aplicar a este programa, y lo tengo que traducir rápido, pues los requerimientos para este programa son accesibilidad a la comunidad, que ustedes puedan colaborar entre la comunidad y sus inquilinos, o vamos a decir la comunidad. También pueden usar el fondo para educar a la comunidad en producción de comida, preparación de comida, y lo que tiene que ser con cosas relacionadas al el ambiente. También es bien importante que cuando ustedes cuando hagan la aplicación, incorporen prácticas que sean sostenibles. Si son para cobertura de suelo con grama o con algún otro tipo de planta que pueda cubrir el suelo, si es irrigación. También hay fondos para controlar ratas. Y ¿qué más tenemos? Tenemos para las casas de gallinas, para los túneles altos, túneles bajos, para herramientas que necesiten para la área donde se mantengan los productos para vender, o para la comunidad, o para estructuras que sean necesarias en el jardín. Next. Y aquí es un ejemplo de las prácticas que acabo de mencionar. Arriba tenemos para los que nosotros le llamamos el farmstead, que es donde ustedes van a tener los vegetales que le pueden proveer a la comunidad, o los vegetales que ustedes vendan. Tenemos un ejemplo de la casa para las gallinas, el sistema de riego, los túneles bajos. También tenemos para ¿cómo le llamamos? Las camas de jardines. Y también tenemos para los túneles altos. Next. I think this is the last one, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, déjame buscar aquí las notas, porque tenemos cuando lo que dijeron anteriormente. I'm just going over what you said, like I made a few notes.
Okay.
So, si los jardines de ustedes no tienen los fondos necesarios para implementar prácticas, ustedes pueden aplicar para un pago ¿cómo se le dice? Un pago anticipado, que lo que quiere decir es que le vamos a dar los fondos con anticipación para que usted pueda instalar prácticas específicas. Por ejemplo, si ustedes quieren instalar una casa para las gallinas y dice que son $5,000 en su propuesta, ustedes le preguntan a Just Food: mira, necesitamos instalar esta práctica, la casa para la gallina, y necesitamos $5,000 en anticipo. Cuando ustedes reciben ese dinero, ustedes van a tener 90 días para gastar ese dinero, para implementar y construir la casa de gallinas. Y eso aplica para todas las prácticas, para el sistema de irrigación, para los túneles altos, los túneles bajos, cualquier práctica que usted vaya a hacer. Si se le ha dado fondos en anticipación, tienen que implementarlo en esos 90 días. La aplicación, nosotros tenemos $150,000 disponibles para todos los jardines, y cada jardín puede aplicar hasta $10,000. Esa es la cantidad máxima que se le va a dar a cada jardín. El programa ahora mismo ha estado por 2 años. Dependiendo de los fondos que se hagan, vamos a poder hacerlo todos los años. Si usted puede aplicar este año, sería fantástico, porque no sabemos si podemos tener los fondos para el próximo año. Pero depende cómo los fondos lleguen a NRCS, así varemos a ver. Pero recuerde que el deadline o la aplicación, el cierre de la aplicación va a ser el diciembre 1. Cerciórese que los papeles y la aplicación se reciba para diciembre 1. Just Food va a enviar la aplicación dijeron que para la semana que viene, lunes, martes, a principio de la semana, van a enviar el link para la página de internet que ellos tienen con la aplicación, con la información. Estén pendientes a eso. Y Yeah, creo que eso es todo. I think that's it.
Gracias.
Mm.
Thank you, Liz.
All right.
And Blake, we will not only package the recording and share with folks, share with everyone, but also the slide deck as well, correct?
Yes.
And in the chat, people are hoping and asking for the application in multiple languages. I can promise Spanish and English for sure. And but I'm thinking of folks that I know in other places like Southeast Asians that are gonna want Bengali and stuff like that to be discussed.
So I can't promise on this call, but what I can promise is that USDA has its own language department that we will look into see if we can get a quick turnaround for this.
Yes.
Can't promise it, but we will definitely look into it.
But we can promise from Just Food that we will have the application in English and Spanish when it is finished.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Oh, most people are gone, so I'm gonna sign off.
Oh, all right.
7:56, that was very good. Right on time.
Yes.
For all who remain, thank you for staying, and we'll be in touch. Take care and thank you all.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you and
Thank
good
you so
night.
much. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.